What if every desire, every ambition, every heartbeat was not yours? What if you were only a puppet, moved by something blind, irrational, and endlessly hungry? Schopenhauer didn't think this was a metaphor. He thought it was the truth. In a world obsessed with chasing dreams, fulfilling desires, and becoming who you truly are, Schopenhauer stood alone, whispering a darker message. Desire is not liberation, it is enslavement, and what we call freedom is the most elegant illusion ever crafted. For Schopenhauer, behind every smile, every achievement, and every act of will, there hides a primal force, blind, insatiable, indifferent. He called it the will to life, the engine of suffering, the tyrant behind our thoughts, the source of all longing. This video explores that terrifying yet strangely liberating idea. What if we are not who we think we are? What if we are only the stage on which will performs? Subscribe if this kind of thinking speaks to you. Leave a comment if this question haunts you too. And now, let's descend together into the dark machinery of desire. Arthur Schopenhauer did not believe the universe was built on reason, logic, or divine order. Instead, he saw something far more disturbing at the root of all existence: will. Not a conscious will, not even a rational force, but a blind, aimless, irrational impulse that drives all life forward. In his 1818 masterwork, The World as Will and Representation, Schopenhauer writes, "The will is the thing in itself, the inner nature of everything, appearing in every blind force of nature and every conscious act of man." To him, this will is not something we have, it is what we are. It pulses through the animal hunting its prey, the tree reaching for sunlight, the human desiring love, power, status. It is everywhere, and it never stops. We are not the masters of this will. We are only its vessels. It uses us as tools for its own continuation, reproduction, competition, hunger, fear, all masks worn by the same faceless force. And because it has no purpose, only momentum, the result is a cycle of endless striving. Desire, frustration, brief satisfaction, new desire. No final destination, just motion. So the first unsettling truth: we are not free because we desire. We are prisoners of desire itself. What if everything one strives for is simply a symptom of being possessed? We love to believe in freedom, the freedom to choose, to change, to build a life according to our will. But for Schopenhauer, this belief is not just false, it's tragically naive. He writes, "Man can do what he wills, but he cannot will what he wills." Essay on the Freedom of the Will, 1839. This sentence, simple as it seems, dismantles centuries of moral philosophy. We may act on our choices, but we do not choose the desires that drive them. Ask a man why he became a doctor, a poet, or a criminal. He'll give you reasons, but behind those reasons stands a force he never chose, a compulsion, a nature. For Schopenhauer, free will is a surface phenomenon, the stage lights. But the script was written long before, by nature, by instincts, by the will itself. And even our deepest acts of rebellion are part of the will's design. In a haunting analogy, he compares human freedom to a waterfall. The water falls with perfect freedom, but it cannot help but fall. We feel free, because we don't see the chains. But the will is inside us, choosing for us, moving through us long before we even appear. If freedom is just a feeling, what happens when that feeling fades? Who are we then?
For Schopenhauer, suffering is not an unfortunate byproduct of life. It is built into the structure of existence. Wherever there is will, there is lack, and wherever there is lack, suffering follows like a shadow. He writes with cold precision, "All willing springs from want, and hence from deficiency, from suffering. Satisfaction always means the end of a pain." The World as Will and Representation, section 56. To will is to be in a constant state of tension between what is and what is not yet. Desire stretches the soul forward like a string drawn too tight, and even when the object is attained, the relief is short-lived, a brief pause before the hunger begins again. Schopenhauer saw this cycle not only in individuals, but in the entire structure of life. The predator suffers from hunger. The prey suffers from fear. The thinker suffers from longing. The artist suffers from vision. And above all, the human suffers because he is aware. Awareness magnifies desire, and with it, the pain of knowing that nothing ever fully satisfies. So long as we desire, we are condemned to chase ghosts. And the more intensely we live, the more intensely we suffer. So, if suffering is the cost of willing, then is peace the death of desire? If the will is a tyrant, and life is its endless repetition of hunger, striving, and pain, then is there any escape? Schopenhauer, though bleak, was not without hope. He believed that while we cannot destroy the will, we can silence it. And one of the few moments this silence is possible is through art. He writes, "In aesthetic contemplation, a person no longer considers the where, the when, the why, or the whither, but only the what. He loses himself in the object." The World as Will and Representation, section 38. In front of a painting, a melody, a poetic line that reaches beyond language, the will goes quiet. We are no longer striving. We are seeing. Art for Schopenhauer is not entertainment. It is rebellion. A temporary suspension of the prison sentence. Music, in particular, was sacred to him. He called it the metaphysical echo of the will itself, a pure expression that bypasses reason and touches the soul directly. Other escapes? Contemplation, stillness, even asceticism. Renouncing desire, refusing to play the will's game. But all are temporary. The will returns, because we are its face. Yet, even a moment of freedom is still freedom. What if we lived for those moments, not to conquer the will, but to outwit it? The conclusion is, Schopenhauer did not promise salvation, but he offered a rare kind of clarity to see life as it is, raw, restless, real. And in that seeing, perhaps, a new kind of freedom is born. Not the freedom to will, but the freedom to pause.